Hello and welcome to the KT Life podcast, your window to life in the UAE. My name is Anamika Chatterjee and I'm your host. Sleep is the most important part of our life. In fact, the quality of sleep determines the quality of life. But there are people who are making do with 2 or 3 hours of sleep almost on an everyday basis. Can it lead to cognitive decline? Can it lead to stress? Today, I have with me someone who's going to dissect all the issues related to sleep for you. Welcome to the KT Life podcast, Dr. Anamika.
Thank you, Anamika. I know.
Oh, we are namesake.
Yes.
This is the KT Live podcast by Khaleej Times.
Firstly, sleep has become a very, very important issue of our time, lack of sleep. The daily ritual regarding sleep is being talked about every now and then. Why are people sleeping so little in modern day?
So, Anamika, let me start with this. As you have discussed and told people that sleep is really important in our life. And averagely, I think a person should sleep around 6 to 8 hours. But nowadays, because of the advancement of technology, so much information, there are so many devices, so much to do for people that they're compromising on their sleep and they're actually hooking onto these cell phones, cameras, TVs, video games, and there are a lot of things. So when you're using a device like cell phone, there is a lot of stimulation, mental stimulation, and then it actually disturbs your sleep. When you're looking, maybe if you're looking like 10 minutes before sleeping at the phone, it'll lead on to at least 2 hours of stimulation. So then you cannot go to sleep just after looking at the phone. So one of the main reasons I would say are these cell phones. Secondly, there is for especially young children, there are a lot of processed food available. There's a lot of sugar high. They've been exposed to chocolates and a lot of stuff when they eat in the night. If they eat that, they're unable to sleep. They're very excited. So it reduces the number of hours. Then we have late nights nowadays, long working hours because of maybe economic issues. There are other issues. There are a lot of disturbances, noise pollution, a lot of gadgets going on. So in all these things, I would say one of the main reasons is the technology, a lot of exposure, which has led to reduced number of hours of sleep. And apart from that, people do have their own sleep issues. Like somebody cannot go to sleep fast, insomnias, restless leg. There are a lot of medical related issues when you're trying to sleep, even if there's no noise or exposure. So there are multiple things involved here.
In certain professions, like the one we belong to, you can never really get disconnected because news cycle works 24 hours. So for people who are working longer hours, it's difficult to get the requisite number of hours and amount of sleep. Yeah. So what can they do differently?
Okay. So for long hours or erratic hours, I would suggest there's nothing like power nap. If you cannot take a 7-8 hours sleep at a stretch, you could also do is like you can you can do 4 hours or then you can work for 4 hours and again sleep in the afternoons. Because we now, as in last few years, we've been sleeping the 6 to 8 hours. If you see the ancient history, there were a lot of breaks in the sleep. There are a lot of research which show that we were not meant to sleep continuously for 8 hours. A 4-hour sleep and the gap, and again you can go on work, and again rest of the sleep later is also enough. So you can have a power nap, and suppose if your profession doesn't allow you to have a longer stretch. But at the end of the day, you should have the number of hours. That would help.
Absolutely. And
24 hours?
physical labor was
Yes.
greater during
Yes.
that time. And even though we are not doing anything physically now, even the sedentary nature of our work is
Yes.
contributing to the sleeplessness, right?
Yes. So, and we are not tired enough to sleep for 8 hours. So it's better if you can sleep for 4-5 hours and then compensate later in the day according to your schedule. Whenever you get time, have a power nap for 1-2 hours. Even that can help. And this is only for those who cannot adjust in a normal routine, not for everyone. I would ideally say that you sleep for 6 to 8 hours at a stretch. If
At
you-
night.
Yes. If you really can't, then this is one of the options.
You're also a sleep specialist, and
I do deal with sleep apnea, snoring, and there are other sleep disorders. Basically, it is sleep disordered breathing. So when you are asleep and then you are not able to breathe properly, that is what I deal with. What happens when you're sleeping? Your passages, the air is passing through your nose, through your throat, and then going to the lungs. Now, if there's any narrowing, any problem in those structures, you have a snoring sound, which is everyone can hear. So whenever air is passing through a narrow passage, it will create a sound. So this is what we call as snoring, which I think everyone must have encountered in their life. Now, what happens?
but we don't necessarily see it as a problem.
It is simple snoring. So it's more of a nuisance for a partner. It might not cause any harm to the patient. But the next step here is if the snoring continues and then same these passages, like especially in the throat area, they're soft tissues. Say for a tonsil or palate, they all come together, close together, and they shut the airway completely. That is where you're not breathing for minimum 10 seconds. This is what is known as apnea. Apnea means no breathing. So when the snoring leads to sleep apnea, then it becomes a dangerous problem. When, for
and
10
the-
seconds you're not breathing here. So that is how it happens. Now, the brain registers this, that for 10 seconds you're not breathing. You have to bring it out of it. The brain has to make you alive again. No breathing means it's dangerous. So there's an arousal. And all these passages are made open. The brain exerts whatever the mechanisms involved. I'm not going in the details, but all these tissues, they go apart. The muscle tones, they are relaxed, and then these passages open and the breathing is resumed. Now, when this whole thing is happening, there's a lot of stress on your vital organs, on brain, heart, lungs, oxygen, the cells. So every night, imagine this is happening multiple times. Instead of your brain or your body recuperating in the sleep, it's struggling to keep you, your airways open. So this becomes a very complicated situation for the body. And eventually, you land up into a lot of complications. Complications starting with blood pressure because of the stress, leading to stress, diabetes, stroke, heart disease. These are the organ damages. And as you said, cognitive decline. So there is lack of, efficiency in work because you have not slept properly. There's a big, massive oxygen desaturation in the night. So during Corona, you must have seen the oxygen desaturation. You understand what it is. So it goes below 95 very commonly. In fact, some of the patients I've seen, it's gone to 60%. Imagine, every night for multiple times. So this is one of the major issues here. It's the oxygen desaturation is happening in the night. So when you're getting up in the morning, you're not at all fresh. You have brain fogging, I would say. You could have a headache. The most common symptom is daytime tiredness. Patient will come, he'll say, I've slept for 8 hours, but still I'm not, fresh. So they don't understand what is happening in the night. So this whole thing is a part of sleep apnea. And these can lead to depression. And the dangerous part is it can lead to accidents, vehicular accidents, machinery accidents, because you have involuntary sleep attacks in the day.
So, what are involuntary sleep attacks?
Okay, right. So suppose you are waiting for me or I'm waiting for you and then I'm just waiting and I just doze off and I don't even realize that. So anywhere you're waiting for any bus or in airport or you're watching television, you're sitting and reading and then you realize you had just dozed off. So many patients come and tell me this. And we call it involuntary sleep attacks or micro sleep attacks. Now imagine if you're driving and this happens. For 1 second, you just, doze off. It can lead to a massive accident. So these are the things which patient doesn't realize. This happens, someone is observing them, And then they're telling you're dozing off. So they're like, no, I'm fine. I slept for 8 hours. Why? My sleep is enough. So these are the pointers which can show you that you have sleep deprivation. And then we have to make the patient realize that these attacks are not normal. These, when you sleep for 8 hours, you don't have these involuntary dozing off anywhere. At least you should be fresh till the night. So this is one of the pointers. When patients are alone, they don't know they are snoring. They don't know this is the problem they have. Unfortunately, for sleep apnea, 70 to 80% patients are not aware of it.
Yeah,
Yes.
in fact, I read 80 to 90% people
yes.
go undiagnosed.
Yes, undiagnosed. And that is where the danger marks come, because if it's undiagnosed, it's leading to all other complications. I've had patients coming with hypertension, they have massive hypertension, uncontrollable, diabetes, they're going for strokes. One of my patients went for angioplasty. Later, it was all, when we went into the details, the cause was sleep apnea, undiagnosed. So no matter you are taking treatment for the other end organ diseases, but if you are not removing the cause, it will remain there and it will aggravate the situation. And I always tell my patients, this is one of the problems which need to be solved because you sleep every day. And the moment you sleep, the whole cycle starts. Irrespective of, other problems, there are causative agents. If you're a smoker or you take alcohol, you can at least restrict all that. You can stay away from polluted areas. But what do you do about the sleep? You're going to sleep every night. So it's very important that you know that your sleep, breathing, when you are asleep, the breathing, the patterns, whatever is happening in the night is normal and it's not causing damage. For sleep is needed for recuperation, as I earlier said. So that's what it should be. There's regeneration of the tissue. You should be relaxed. And here, your body's struggling to open your airways. You're snoring whole night. You're tossing and turning. Some of the patients have, the leg movement, restless leg syndrome, we call
yes.
it. Yes. Leg movements multiple times. That doesn't let them sleep. Then
what is this indicative of, doctor?
Restless?
Stress? No, the leg movement.
Leg movements is one of the disease. I would say it's one of the conditions. It's not indicative of anything. It's a neurological condition. Some people have that. They just move their leg multiple times in the night. Because of that movement, there's a lot of breakage in the sleep. So there are medical treatments for that. And when we are doing sleep study, we check that too. So that is one of the things. Another thing in the night is acid reflux, which can trigger sleep apnea cycle. Now, acid reflux, again, in today's world is very common. Why? Because most of us are having late night dinners and sleeping thereof. Ideally, there should be a 3 hours gap so that the digestion, has started and the acid doesn't come in your throat area when you're sleeping. But I don't think so everyone can follow this. So moment you eat a heavy meal, you go to sleep and the digestion starts, all your acid from the stomach comes to your vocal cord area and there's a spasm and a sleep apnea cycle is triggered. Very commonly. So it is acid reflux. So one need to make changes in lifestyle. Because sleep apnea, if you want to prevent at least these acid reflux, this can be prevented by your lifestyle changes, a light meal, or go for a walk after dinner. Or if you don't have time, then take an extra pillow when you're sleeping for first 1 hour. These are the precautions you can take. Another thing, sleep apnea, because it's a structural problem, obesity also contributes to it. So if you have extra weight, extra, pad of fat around your neck is thick, you have a big belly, you should look into that. Try to reduce weight, do more exercise, have a moderate diet, and there are various ways to do that. So at least the sleep apnea, the choking, and these stoppage of breathing, these attacks are reduced. So what I tell the patients, a 10% reduction in weight can bring down the sleep apnea by 10%. Whatever it is, it does help. So these are the things in patient's hand. The acidity problem, the obesity, the lifestyle. You have to have, an active lifestyle. Another thing which aggravates sleep apnea is if you're taking sedatives, if you're taking extra medication, it again relaxes all your tissues and all your sleep apneic cycles can be increased. The sedatives, right? People are on many medications, so they can contribute to their sleep apnea cycle. Now, recent research also shows there's a genetic component. Some people are prone to, the collapse of the airway. So that part we can't help. If it is there, it's there. Then now when the patient comes to me with these symptoms, I have to give pointers to them that do you, despite sleeping for 8 hours, were you still tired in the day? Were you fatigued? Or do you have dryness of mouth, And then do you suddenly doze off? Or you're not very, alert when you're working? You're irritable? Or are you getting depressive episodes? So these are the things patient is like, yeah, I can relate to this. So then I say, okay, let's try. And I don't know, because a lot of them are single or not, they don't have a partner who can tell they're snoring. So then these pointers lead me to conduct a sleep study. So when we do a sleep study, this is how we diagnose whether the patient has sleep apnea or not. We have to document it first. So sleep study is done in a setup, generally in the hospital setup, and a lot of channels, I'm not going in details, are put, right? And we measure number of apneas, how many times the oxygen is going down, the snoring episodes, and multiple things are measured in this. This is an overnight study. Okay.
Wow.
Yes, the whole night you have to be in a sleep lab. There are home-based studies too. We can do that too. So once I do the study, I can see whether it's just the snoring or is it sleep apnea, and there are various other, modifications of these diseases. So this is how it is diagnosed, but a sleep study is a must. For children, it could be big tonsils, adenoids, small chin. So if these structures are all coming together when the child is sleeping, then he won't be able to breathe. So it can it can cause a lot of problem in children. They get suffocated. And if there is no arousal someday, then it can lead to big trouble. So this is in the children commonly. Plus the children who have syndromes, multiple syndromes, they can have this problem. Another thing is as I said, skeletal structure. How small or big is your chin? How is your jaw placed? Even that puts a lot of pressure on the airway, and it can lead to sleep apnea. So teens, they can have big tonsils, a deviated nasal septum. They could have big nasal turbinates. There are structures in the nose which can compromise the space. They could be suffering from nasal block from long time, but they wouldn't be like bothered. Okay, it's just a nasal block. But nose is the starting point of our airway passage. If the narrowing, the snoring starts from there. So nose also needs to be addressed in this. So anyone having nasal block long time, and then they tell me about dryness in the night or choking, then I tell them that you could be having sleep apnea.
Yeah.
So
how is it diagnosed? Can it be self-diagnosed?
yes.
If at all?
So for self-diagnosis, what I do is if you are it depends, you're single, you're sleeping alone, or you're sleeping with someone. So if you have a partner, then it makes easier because partner can see snoring, loud snoring they can hear. They can witness choking episodes. So these are the common things which a partner notices. If you're alone, we have different symptoms which I would distribute into nighttime symptoms and daytime. So patient on his own might feel that he has dryness whole night, dryness of throat, one of those. Sometimes there's night sweats, even nightmares, unusual nightmares and night sweats. Another thing is too much movement in the night, restlessness. Then they might have choking themselves. Some patients come with choking, that I felt choked and I got up. So one of those. Few patients have frequent urination. They have to keep going to the washroom. So these are the pointers in the night. Now, in the daytime, these are more significant symptoms. As I said earlier, there's tiredness, fatigue when you're getting up in the morning. There could be early morning headache for no reason. He's getting up every day and he has a headache. So that. And then you are confused in the mornings. You are not very fresh mentally. Third. Then suddenly you develop blood pressure. Your sugar levels are raised for no other reason. You have a fit lifestyle. But then this is happening. So these are the pointers. Plus earlier, as we discussed, sleep attacks, micro sleep attacks, involuntary sleep attacks, dozing off and feeling, not fresh whole day. And then a lot of times these patients have history of allergies, nasal blocks, rhinitis, hay fever, asthma. Asthma is also related to sleep apnea. So all those history has to be taken. And the smokers and night shift people, erratic lifestyle, sleep schedules, that and all, that adds on to this. So when you're on your own, you have to look at these symptoms. But I would say the main one is daytime tiredness and fatigue.
And what can we do to correct this?
So to correct this,
in terms of lifestyle changes,
like if you have excess weight, you have to reduce that. You have to have a fit lifestyle. Your dinner and sleep timing should be adjusted. One is this. If you have nasal blocks, allergies, get that treated. If you have recurrent sore throats, tonsil problems, again, has to either take treatment or take precautions in regards to food and diet. You can do gargles and, avoid cold foodstuffs and all that. And so basically we can do as much in terms of precautions because essentially it's a structural disease. So you cannot change your structures inside how your nose is shaped or how your tonsils are big or small or your jaw is placed. Only thing in your hands are these things. So that.
And how does it impact the quality of sleep?
The quality of sleep is really bad if you are having a sleep apnea attack. The sleep efficiency goes down a lot because it leads to a broken, fragmented, very disturbed sleep. You're not even sleeping continuously for 5 to 10 minutes. You are in one of the deep stages of sleep, no doubt. When we do the sleep study, I can see that. But the quality, there are multiple arousals, there are multiple obstructions, there are blockages. So it's actually as if you're not sleeping at all. So quality is really bad, a very broken sleep. And that leads to a lot of sleep deprivation and all the symptoms and complications what I mentioned earlier.
Do you experience resistance among your patients to wearing machines?
A lot.
Because it's a very uncomfortable machine that you're expected to wear for sleep apnea.
I know the actual treatment, the most common treatment, what people are aware of is the machines. And I know it's a big mask you have to wear, though they have come with nasal pillows, small masks too. But what I have experienced in my patients, there's a demarcation. Like the young patients, most of them reject the machine outrightly. This is how it is. And the older group, they do try. And a lot of them try and they're happy with it. They're okay with the commitment. But the younger lot, they are like, we cannot do this all our life. Asking someone for a lifelong commitment, using a mask or machine every night is, I think, a too much for ask. And that commitment, they're not ready for it. And there are some group of patients which they start very enthusiastically, but if I follow through like next 3-4 years, most of them stop using it because it's not easy to use a machine every night. So to help these people, we have alternative. We have lot of surgical treatment available for those who reject the machine or for those who cannot tolerate the machine. Machine is not always very tolerable or very comfortable for all. It depends on the problem they have. So it's not that just machine is a treatment for everybody. So there we do a lot of sleep surgeries. And then patient is really benefited by these surgeries. The airways are opened through these surgeries. And then the quality of life, especially in terms of daytime tiredness, is greatly improved. And patient, actually, I would say they get a new lease of life. because this surgery, the sleep is connected with every single thing in our life. So then I have got these feedbacks from patients that after surgery, I slept for first time continuously for 6 to 7 hours today, and I'm so fresh. And when you hear this, you know surgery was successful. And then I asked the partner. I would mention here one thing, that with these surgeries, you cannot have the snoring completely vanished. But the partner will come out with, yes, he did snore, but it was, I would call it socially acceptable snoring. Yes, that's
There
what we
is a
use.
socially acceptable snoring.
Yes, there is. He's very, very mild snoring, and I was not disturbed, and it didn't arouse my sleep. So these are the two criteria which we look at as in terms of surgical success. So, and it is very important because sleep is the key thing in the life. I would say if you don't sleep well, your whole day is gone. So this is what we aim to improve, that part for people's life, that what 7-8 hours rest they're looking forward to should be of a good quality, should be, comfortable.
But there is a phenomenon where people who are getting 8 hours of sleep are also feeling restless
Yes.
and anxious. Why is that so? Is it because the mind is all
Yes.
even at work?
Yes. So one of the reasons here is, I told you, the extra stimulation, the information our mind is taking in every day. So I would advise such people to follow sleep hygiene. Sleep hygiene, it involves, first of all, taking off your gadgets at least an hour before you sleep. No gadgets. 1 hour before your sleep. Okay? Secondly, too many bright lights, they should be dimmed at least an hour or so before the sleep, because the light also stimulates your mind. There are certain chemicals in the brain which get stimulated due to this artificial light. So those are very technical terms, but so you have to stay away from light. Have a dim atmosphere in your room. Then don't have your television, gadgets and your bed in the same area. It's a good idea to have all these gadgets in another room and your bedroom separate. So that helps. Though it sounds like no, but third thing is good old advice. Like I would advise someone is not having a good sleep can start reading some books, like hard copy, not Kindle. And I'm sure that always works. So if you take to reading some books or some articles, basic stories, not very like something not connected to news or new information, just a story. It does help. It does help for people who have a struggle like falling asleep. So these things help. Secondly, if you have, as I said, nasal allergies or nasal blocks, you need to get that treated. Otherwise it will cause a disturbed sleep and you'll be very restless whole night. Lastly, mentally, if you are very stressed about your work, you have finished your whole long day of work, but in the night, you're like, I didn't do this, I have to do that. That mental conversation, there you have to use your willpower. You have to train your mind to tell that this is sleep time. No questions will be answered. I have to sleep. We'll see it in the morning. And it works. If you just willingly do that every night, because your mind is asking you questions and you're trying to answer them. You're finding solutions to your daytime problems during the night. So if you try this exercise, it might help. And there's some meditation videos and exercises.
I wanted to come to that
Yes.
actually, because nowadays a lot of apps are promising that you will go to sleep, and people are sleeping with their mobile phones, turning on those apps in the hope that, okay, the music, the meditation will. So isn't there a contradiction there?
It is. That's why I'm laughing, because the same thing I said, the gadgets are the one causing a stimulation. Whether they're producing a very soothing sound, but at the end of the day, it's a gadget. And then that is causing, again, stimulation because then some sound is being produced through a mobile. So it's a good idea to keep it away. You can do it mentally. That's what I'm saying. You don't need an external app to do it. Our minds are very strong. If you tell your mind to just relax, that's sleep time, just give that order. It does work. Instead of getting a device from outside, putting some music on it or some meditative sound. Frankly, personally, I would be more, my sleep would be broken by such external interferences.
And REM sleep,
Yes,
how important is that?
it's really very important. It's like I said, it regenerates our cells. It's very important for our creativity, for all our recuperation. So we go into that sleep during 90-hour sleep cycle after the stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and we end up into REM sleep. So every sleep cycle has these 4 cycles. Unfortunately, since the relaxation happens more, it's a deep sleep with rapid eye movement. Sleep apnea is aggravated in this cycle. Most of the sleep studies I see, they are maximum in the REM sleep. So this cycle is more in children. In adults, the duration of this cycle is lesser. Because this is more in children, they are more visually, their cognition visually is much better than adults. That's why their imagination is better. So REM sleep is important for that creativity, imagination, recuperation, regeneration of our, organs, cells, everything. But if you are taking a sedative or if you are interfering with your daily lifestyle, the REM sleep, I can see a lot of time disturbed REM sleep. In fact, for some patients who are on to some antidepressants, I saw there was no REM sleep. It's not very common, but it's not good. So if there's a sleep cycle, when I see there's a problem with non-REM or REM sleep, then I refer such patients to the experts because this is beyond my field. This is more of another sleep disorder, the REM sleep disorder. But yes, it does contribute more to sleep apnea, and it is important to have the sleep in the right quantity.
At which point should one opt for a sedative? Because you have many over-the-counter sedatives for sleep disorders, and people are very quick to, pop pills.
From my point of view, you don't have to just resort to a sedative. If you have an issue, then you have to meet an expert, a neurologist or a psychiatrist who look into insomnias or sleep disturbances. They are the medical issues connected with sleep problems. And they would analyze and tell you what's the problem. And if they prescribe, then take. Don't take on your own. Because if you're taking on your own, it's not going to help. It might put you to sleep for one day, but it will not, in long term, it will not help. It's not a good idea to pop sedatives on your own, according to me.
You have mentioned almost everything that there is needed to know about sleep and lack of sleep. What can people do differently to maintain a good sleep hygiene mentally?
Mentally, the relaxation, they should compartmentalize their work schedule and their other, suppose they have come back from their office, they should leave that work there. If they are sleeping, they should sleep. This is very important. So, compartmentalize, be focused on what you're doing. So just take it that sleep is also one of the tasks. Take it that way. It's a project. I have to sleep now. No other questions to be answered or no other distractions. That way they can do. And then also it depends if someone actually has a light sleep, the issue of, falling asleep not very easily. Sometimes the temperature in the room, your bed sheets, the way you're sleeping, that also matters. So you have to make the environment very sleep friendly according to your needs. You have to do that. And a lot of things you are eating in the evenings, any beverages which cause stimulation. Like
No
tea.
sugar after 6,
Yes.
for example.
I don't go by blanket statements. If it works for you, fine. Because some people still sleep. They have a coffee and they can go to sleep. So what works for you, you have to find individually. There's no one straightforward formula for this. I've seen different people have different issues and they still sleep, and some people trying everything and they are light sleepers. Some will have to accept, yeah, you are a light sleeper. So it's okay. Sometimes you feel you've just not slept, you're aware, but it's okay. Maybe you are just in stage 2, 1, 2, it's fine. You're still sleeping. So one has to know what quality of sleep you have. It's okay. Not everyone goes into deep sleep all the time. So that is also okay, acceptable. But then you have to have a very friendly and cozy environment to sleep. Sleep apnea, snoring, all the machines. I would put in a word about the sleep surgeries, that yes, there is an alternative, because patients, some of them are really aware of this and they are using the machine, and a lot of them are not happy with it. So in case anyone thinks that this is just one treatment and if I don't use, that's the end, it's not like that. There are surgical options, there are medical devices, there are dental devices, and there are small splints and multiple things available as alternatives for the treatment of sleep apnea and snoring. So just that people should keep in mind.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anamika, for this insightful conversation.
Thank you, Anamika,
It's strange,
for
right?
such a nice chat, and I hope a lot of people would be benefited by this conversation, and it will give
Absolutely.
them a good, healthy sleep. I hope so.
Remember that sleep is not an indulgence, it is a necessity. To all the listeners tuning in to this episode, I urge you to share your thoughts and comments on the social media pages of Khaleej Times. Till then, this is Anamika Chatterjee signing off.